Hello ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm your host, AirsoftAL, and welcome to another Media Reviews. Today we take a look at the next chapters of Johnnieboy11's Gate X Halo story. This one, I'm not joking on this, these next chapters are probably the most fun I have ever seen in my life. So, what happens in these chapters? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what happens in these chapters is, of course, how do I put it? Absolute insanity.
Ah, boy, here we go.
But when I say absolute insanity, you're probably thinking it's just craziness, right? No, not really. The world building that is presented here is once again on point for Johnnieboy11. The characteristics are on point. The generation kill is on point. Everything about this is on point for Johnnieboy11 as a author. And even though the guy is in Romania, I cannot help but commend him. I mean, hell, the way he is, I mistake him for an American from time to time, but what I will say is this, is that Dr. Halsey as a whole actually does work out pretty well and does play off the other characters presented. The warrior bunnies themselves presented are, once again, really good. We even get a little bit more characteristic between them and the UNSC. Hell, Johnnieboy11 showing his absolute Sabaton fan side shows that warrior bunnies, with their speed, their dexterity, and just all-around strength, make great shock troopers, or stormtrooping, or even stormtroopers. And yes, one of the chapters where the UNSC actually does come under fire from some mages and even otherwise Imperial forces on their borders show that why warrior bunnies, or at least beast folk, or beastkin in general, in terms of fantasy settings, or at least in terms of being set in a more modern setting, and how their abilities, their natural abilities, are much better than humanity's in terms of just sheer strength and speed, as well as dexterity, shows that, yeah, warrior bunnies, Bravo whiskeys, or even whiskey Bravos, are good at what they do. They're faster, have better eyesight, better trigger discipline, and when put into a Marine training, there's not, the saying goes that there is nothing more deadly than a Marine and his rifle. You throw in some kind of animalistic characteristic into that, like, say, better eyesight, better muscle reflexes, better hand-eye coordination, or anything of that nature, you enhance those abilities with some sort of animalistic characteristic, you got a deadly soldier right there. You got a deadly ground force right there.
Of course!
Now, obviously, aside from that little skirmish, what is happening in terms of the rest of the story? Well, the wounded from, of course, both the UNSC and the civilians, which, speaking of the civilians, they do actually reach an agreement in the story to where the civilians are actually being transported to the UN base. And even the cool thing is that, like I said in the last review, the dragon, the fire dragon, is dead. D-E-A, dead. D-O-A. Just murderized, more or less. And the cool part is that, again, it actually does reflect the story. It shows that things are changing. Even the dragon kin in this story do play a part in how things go forward. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we start seeing some rather Interesting character development. Because yes, people have stated before that, oh, this world obviously knows about Halo. I personally wanted to hold off on my judgment until I actually knew what was going on. And dear God Almighty, were we not disappointed when the big reveal came about. The world knows about Halo, yes, except, here's the thing, Halsey plays the games. And while in of itself would be kind of awesome, that's the thing. Halsey plays the games. She does this. But she notices discrepancies in how things go. Yes, they were done in the perspective that someone was there at those events, but there were discrepancies in how they actually played out in her timeline. That alone shows a red flag for me, because that means that either one or two things are going on with the author. Either, number one, it's cosmic coincidence, because in any storyline where two worlds kind of meet together, but there's a common causality that makes them essentially the same world except two different realities, which, in that sense, saying that someone did think of Halo, and you know, they did think of all this stuff, except, you know, there's one or two things that did not match up with this reality, or cosmic coincidence number two. Except not so much a coincidence as in a cosmic fuckery. As in, some cosmic being out there was playing God, and basically took someone from the Halo universe and put them into our reality, or at least in the Gates reality, and used that to basically make the Halo franchise that we know and love. Now, whether or not this is true is completely and utterly up to the philosophical people, the debate people, the people who subscribe to chaos theory and obviously, you know, the universe theory. Basically people who have a bigger PhD than me and those who actually studied quantum physics. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm just a guy who loves general sci-fi and actually likes just general insanity. I like chaos. I love craziness. Now, if that's true, it depends on who it is and who could actually be from the Halo universe that's currently in this world. One of those things. But, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the other thing that is presented, of course, the growing relationship between, of course, the Major and Tula.
You damn straight!
Ah, yes, romance. How I love it. And how those two fucking deny it. Jesus Christ, okay, you two, everyone can see it. You're both in love. You've had 3 years to develop the goddamn relationship. Major, Colonel, whatever your rank is, pop the fucking question already. Okay, just pop the question, get down on one knee, ask her to marry you, go from there. Okay? Okay. Moving on. Now, the other thing about the story, though, is that things aren't all that great. Halsey is reading the books, obviously. She's staying at the UN FOB and more or less just kind of building up a relationship. However, things don't go well when she gets back to the UNSC FOB, or at least the UNSC base now, which before I even get into Chapter 20 itself, I'm just going to say this. The UNSC bunny girls, Tula and her second-in-command, actually reflect on how things have changed in the 3 years that they got to know the UNSC, that the UNSC kind of got to know them. How their civilization has grown, how they themselves have grown as warriors, and more or less actually feel that they have a future. And I fully agree with that. Any civilization has the ability to have a future. And this is a perfect example of a storytelling element that I think a lot of people kind of forget about when it comes to fantasy. You can uplift a fantasy civilization if done right. In this example, the warrior bunnies and the UNSC are allies because they have fought and bled together in the trenches. They have been working together for 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised if some Marines, or at least some UNSC personnel and some bunny girls, you know, got together and had a kid. You know, maybe some 3-year-olds running, you know, basically them having dual citizenships now. I'm just saying that what is presented here is a good, like, storytelling element, and I love it. I really do. Now, the big thing here is what happens in Chapter 20. Sad to say, all that peacefulness, all that good, all that staring down at each other, besides, of course, what have you, two events happen that kind of shatter that peace. Number one, they find, when that group attacked them, and of course the bunny girls, stormtrooping bunny girls, kicked ass and took names, they found a grenade and some UNSC guns with this group of raiders. Now here's the thing, the guns themselves are actually a lot fucking older than what they are, even what's being given to the bunny girls. This stuff is really old and predates, from what is being shown, predates the insurrection, or at least around the insurrection time, or even, early days of the Human Covenant War. So, automatically, there's a red flag for me. And the running theory they're going with is that some UNSC ship crash-landed on the planet somewhere, and so now they're scrambling to try and find the ship in hopes that they can, not only recover the dead, but also kind of figure out which ship went missing and which ship crash-landed. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that Dear God Alive, Chapter 20, when the Empire goes and fucks up. The Empire fucks up in that they decide it's a good idea to attack their allies, the Dragonkin, to get some scientists, i.e. civilians, and then literally kill them in front of the UNSC base.
Peace was never an option.
I never did say pseudo-Romans were smart. And don't get me wrong, this kind of posturing has been done in history before. There have been actual live executions done before in the past in front of fortifications. I believe there are some examples during the religious wars, which if you don't know what the religious wars are, look them up. There were many of them, but one prevalent one I think I know of is the one between the pagans and the Roman Empire, I believe, when Rome actually invaded what is England today, and there was a religious war going on between the two. I believe there was something similar like that done like that before. I'm trying to think of other good historical examples, but I can't off the top of my head at the moment. But what I will say is that this does not go well for Halsey. Now, let me just go ahead and say this now. Dr. Halsey, as a character and as a woman, not that one, for the love of Christ. That one. Dr. Halsey is a vindictive woman. She's a powerful woman. She is a woman who does have a somewhat moral compass, give or take, but is a woman who literally is not someone who does things halfway. When she sets her mind to something, she sets her mind to it. And by set her mind to it, I mean she declares all-out war against the Empire. Dr. Halsey now is in that mindset she had during the Human Covenant War. She will not, let me make this clear right here, she will not do things halfway. The Empire decided to execute her people in front of her, she's going to fucking burn the place to the goddamn ground.
This is where the fun begins.
Now, that's not to say that she's going to completely and utterly write off the rules of war. I'm not saying she's going to completely and utterly mack round a civilization. She's not going to nuke a civilization. She's not a mad tyrant. She's not Makarov for frickin' Call of Duty.
Remember, no Russian.
She is not frickin' Zakhaev from Call of Duty. She is not the crazy Russians from Battlefield where they would literally set off a nuclear weapon in the middle of fucking Paris. Halsey is a woman who is a veteran of the Human Covenant War. She is the mother of the Spartan program. She is a scientist, a brilliant scientist at that. She is a headstrong leader. She is the head of the current military intelligence that was ONI at one point in time, the Office of Naval Intelligence, that did a whole lot of evil shit that would even make the CIA be like, dude, you need to not do that. Dr. Halsey is going to make the Empire burn, yes. The Bunny Warriors are going to do what they do best, as stormtroopers, as shock troopers. The Dragonkin are going to probably be recruited into this. The UN is probably going to get recruited into this, or at least brought into this, or at least told, stay the hell out of my way, because hell hath no fury than a woman's scorn. And right now, Dr. Halsey is pretty fucking pissed off and is going to burn an entire civilization.
Listen to me, jerk-off. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Quit being part of the fucking problem and put the other guy back on.
Now, whether or not she's going to induce civilian casualties is completely and utterly up to the author and how she's portrayed. But Halsey, in my opinion, and from what I've read of not only the books, I've seen the lore, and everything else, not the fucking TV show, because the TV show never happened. It was a failure. It was never Halo. Never, ever was one to take civilian casualties, was never one to even induce civilian casualties, was never one to even think civilian casualties were acceptable if induced by UNSC forces. So, yeah. How this goes is completely up to the author. And Johnnieboy11, I'm going to say this now, I look forward to where this goes. Would I have loved a little bit more? Like, a little bit more interaction between the Spartans and the UNSC and the Marines and the other forces? Sure. Have I left a lot out in this review? Sure. But the main focus still stands. The story is good. And I cannot wait to see where this goes. Legitimately, I cannot wait to see where this goes. But, till then, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I've been AirsoftAL. And next time, we take a look at, honestly, 2 stories. Or at least, not really 2 stories, I guess I should say. We're going back to Harry Potter, but this time we take a look at Harriet Potter, the Demon Empress, and some of the crazy stuff going on there. Because it's Harry Potter and Overlord, ladies and gentlemen, and we see what happens, what's going on, exactly. But, aside from that, of course, the other thing we'll be taking a look at is a not Patreon, my bad, a PayPal-sponsored review, which is a Fallout New Vegas x Pathfinder crossover. And legitimately, we're going to see if that's any good. And then after that, folks, I'm going to be taking a look at a gunsmith isekai. At what happens when a gunsmith is brought into a world where he can literally make guns from a liquid metal. Should be an interesting story, to say the least. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, I've been AirsoftALs. If you have a story you want me to check out, then consider... Well, if you're already in the Discord with me, consider DMing it to me so I can check it out. If, of course, you have other things you'd like me to check out, then name the title off by any author down below. Don't try to share a link, because YouTube will remove it. And if you want to help support the channel, or sponsor a fanfiction review, a story review, or even a media review in general, then please consider donating today. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been AirsoftAL, and I will see all you lovely, lovely people in the next media review. Till next time. Later.
Looking for that perfect game for your gaming console? Video Game Corner is the largest independently owned video gaming store in North Mississippi, located at 1519 Highway 72 in Corinth. We are an authorized limited-run retail store and have a massive collection of retro games and game systems, and also plush toys and collectibles. We also pay top dollar for your used video games. Check them out Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Visit Video Game Corner in Corinth.